we're actually pushing the edge of the envelope, as we say in the aviation business. It's probably an opportune time, Paul, as you interject, for me to try to do a very quick summary of some of the key points that we discussed. We started our discussion in a slightly unusual place, talking about music, which we hadn't planned, but actually, in the context of meetings, one point that came out, Julie, you shared your experience of having used music in a meeting setting, and the purpose, as you described it, was to build shared connection, shared links, which we'll come to a little bit later. But that idea of building a common baseline that then enables people to bring their diversity and their different opinions to a common base point or to a common starting point. We expanded that idea into ensuring that the meeting that we're attending has shared purpose, so that we have a common understanding of why are we actually here. When we started talking about that, Paul, you introduced the idea of, but what about people who are told to go to the meeting? And we often encounter that, but Martin, you brought in the concept of, well, while music could be used, we talked about that previously, we also then started to discuss the idea of people sharing a little bit of themselves, so that we build a common understanding of where the different participants in the meeting are coming from. So rather than just accepting that somebody is forced to come along to a meeting, if the meeting is handled sensitively, let's say, and empathically, we have a much better chance of drawing out of the participants from the outset, why are they here? What is it that they hope to take away? What is it that they may be able to contribute? By establishing this baseline, we then build a really strong platform on which diversity of perspectives and backgrounds can now be levered to be brought into the conversation. It was at that point in our conversation, Julie, where you introduced two really interesting concepts. So the individual forces that are present, and that's, Martin, you characterize that as there's a kind of a feel or there's a vibe that you get from the group. So managing those individual forces in combination with, Julie, what you talked about as the invisible links. So drawing out of the group, what are the common points of connection? Both of those perhaps become part of what is the underlying culture that the organization has set for its meetings to take place. Martin, you then made a point about understanding the status of the team or group that we're working with is obviously critically important. So if the group knows each other and meets frequently, that might need to be handled quite differently to if it's a completely new group, depending on what our purpose is, may end up requiring different tools and techniques. But I think all of us agreed that having the shared common purpose, having an empathic feel for interacting with the people. So now we talked about there are humans, not machines. And if I could wrap it all up, Martin, going back to a key point I think that you made, which is we want to try and work with people where they currently are, rather than working with people where we think they should be or where we want them to be. So by working and focusing on that aspect, work with where they are rather than where we are trying to get them, we have a much better chance of being able to foster and get the maximum benefit from diverse perspectives and opinions that are going to be present probably in every workshop or meeting that we actually attend. I'll leave it at that, Paul.